I think what we're doing here at CounterPlay is that we are integrating play activities and work life in a way that we don't see that many other places. But it's a way of thinking about how can we be more lively in our play, and more playful in our everyday activities. I think one of the kind of ideas behind CounterPlay is that our society is so structured around rules and what we can do in specific contexts, specific institutions, specific workplaces. So there's so many rules, but when we are playing, we are allowed to make mistakes. And maybe in our ordinary society, there's so many rules that we are afraid of making mistakes, afraid of doing something stupid that makes us look bad or make the company look bad or whatever. But in play, we are allowed to test out and we are allowed to make mistakes. So perhaps if we are more playful, we can also be more creative when we are having, ordinary work-life experiences.
Quick changes. Everyone is still in the game. All right, guys, 10 seconds to go. And I do see, yep, take your time. 5. You ready? And for the last time, we'll have a look. Try to spot all the 8 additional changes. How many? Yes, how many changes did you guys spotted? More than 5 changes in that round? More than 6? More than 7? All 8! Isn't that great? Isn't that great?
Integrating play in that way can be quite helpful. And I think that's also about democracy, because it means that if we take the failures and if we take the mistakes and we take all these things into consideration, it's also about making room for diversity and making rooms for mistakes and retrials. Well, democracy has such a long history, so in a sense that democracy is almost the world's longest play activity. But yeah, of course, in a democracy, at least in a democratic state, there are some rules already. But these rules are still up for negotiation. One of the things we do when we are playing is that we are always experiencing and exploring and playing with the boundaries between ourselves and other people. So by exploring these boundaries and of interpersonal relationship and group relations, we're also exploring how can we build a society that includes a lot of voices. So in a sense, in a democracy, we're always also renegotiating, rethinking rules. Can we do things differently? And in the same way, when we're playing, we're testing the boundaries. We're testing which rules we can potentially break, which rules we can alter, and which rules we need to have. You can say that play is a way of practicing democratic engagement. So it's like an ideal version, perhaps, of democracy.
Okay, well, this is a symbol of democracy because it's made of lots of small pieces that together make one whole. And each piece is important, or else it doesn't hold together. Democracy. Yes! Good.
So how you define play, it's wide open. So you have academics here, you have people who are engaging, body play and how you use movement to connect, and then there's people who are creating games, and so it's a community, I think. I am here because I think play is something that we're missing in our day-to-day, and I'll be here. I'm here presenting with my partner in play, Benjamin Martin, from Playful Nature in Berlin. A couple different workshops. Yeah, what we do is we bring together materials into a space, and then we work with people to find out what the rules are of the natural play and the game that comes out of it. So we've brought in some different materials for this Counterfest 19, and we're excited to see what people make of it. Yeah, I mean, using this idea of play-centered experiences, that you can take it to anything that you do. So in my work in film, I think it's finding a way to connect to people that is I mean, in documentaries you have to create an openness and a level of trust, And I think there's a lot of things that, from a very early age, when we play, we discover these lines of trust and openness. I think what we expect is that if you create a safe and interesting place to play, that when you're engaged in play, you start to let go of some of your barriers, and you let some of these walls come down that kind of keep you from connecting to other people. So I think that when you have the right environment for play, then community can form naturally. And I think that's bringing people together through play is, I think, what we hope to expect.
Well, I think one of the things about CounterPlay is that you come with some sort of understanding what CounterPlay is. So you know it's about play. So you already come primed a little bit, I guess, to play. So I know that it's completely okay to wear something silly, well, not silly, but my kaleidoscope in my head, because I feel comfortable in this environment, and I'm surrounded by people who I know are also playful and are kind of receptive to that. But I think people play the best when they're in a safe space, when they understand the rules of that space, and they know that they're surrounded by people that they have something in common with, or they can discover that they have something in common with. When people think about play, they think about the wild, outlandish, the children's play, do you know? So that wonderful noise when kids are playing, and they think it needs to be physical, and it needs to be visible, but actually there's lots of different kinds of play. And I think that we don't acknowledge sometimes that actually we are playing in our everyday lives because we're doing something quite peaceful, or something individually, or maybe just something kind of low-key together. And it can be play, but people don't realise it. It's like people don't realise that they're playing games. I don't think that anyone ever means to exclude. But I think sometimes we feel excluded because maybe we need, the mode of play that's happening doesn't suit how we're feeling, or suit that particular mode that we're in at that point. So maybe I'm feeling a little bit tired, or maybe I'm feeling a little bit shy, and then that changes the goggles, I guess, that I'm wearing, and that makes me feel a bit excluded. All right, so I'm a really big fan of new games, and Bernie de Koven, and the idea that the rules of play don't need to be static. So if you stop having fun, change the rules. So I try and live my life by that, I guess.
This is the first section of this session, all right? Now I want you to fall into groups of 6. That's including our observers, right? And it can also be including the newcomers. And you will have roughly, let's say, 11 minutes, right? Every group will receive a few cards, debriefing cards. Just go from the top all the way to the bottom. Try to discuss as many questions as possible, right? But also hear some voices from different perspectives, okay? So groups of 6. So just spread out a little bit, and then discuss those questions, roughly 10 minutes, maybe 11. Include your observers. I'll be going around too. Let's go from top.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
So Wayfinder Live is a location-based augmented reality game, but essentially it's a street game. So it's about wayfinding, but not wayfinding in the sense of, getting efficiently from one place to the next. It's a free-to-play app that actually tries to get you lost in the city and to become more mindful of the urban environments around you. So the way that it works is there's artworks like this one, which is actually just a kind of, the materiality of it's really important because it could just be like a standard QR code, but it's this art object that is integrated into the environment like a wayfinding sign, but it's also abstract. The app is to explore the urban environment, but not so much just being on your screen. It's to find and look and to kind of be lost in your surroundings, and then have these intense encounters with augmented reality. You get taken into an alternate reality, which is this kind of story, this narrative around the city as a process and what it can be. Because we see the city as this very fixed material construct made of concrete, steel and glass. But actually, once you start to look, you see that it's always shifting and changing, and there's multiple layers of process happening there. Because often we feel really disconnected from the spaces around us, and these material objects are this way to reground and reconnect us with this environment. And this is where I become really interested in this notion of playable cities, how we negotiate all of the technologies and kind of systems and processes that are embedded in our cities, often by smart cities, that can depersonalize the city and just kind of create this feeling of a alienation, kind of just reinforces the kind of alienating effect that cities can have. Yeah, because the goal of the playable city is to connect people and place together and to create this urban play community that is embedded and kind of integrated into all of these layers of the city. If you start to see the city in a playful way, then you start to see it as a kind of you can reimagine it, you can kind of see what it could be rather than just thinking what it is, how to bring people into a subtle kind of form of play with a city that then that they can take with them, so they unlock some new way of being in themselves and then see the city in a different way.
Okay, stop, that's fine, we got it. We got 2 quick steps. Step 1 and 2. You got it? Let's put on. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Yes. Okay. Now the trick is.
Yeah, I came across CounterPlay at a Playable Cities event a few years back, and then I thought, wow, this is great. This is really, really kind of what I'm interested in. Events, you have these moments, these kind of intense engagement with a community, then disperses, and really the concept of CounterPlay really appeals to me because. Even though it's kind of experimental game making, but it's also game making that engages with people, but it's also game making that engages with ideas, and it's also kind of this experiments with the play communities. And it seems like CounterPlay is a conversation that's bringing a lot of those things together. And one of the key challenges I think is how you create create recognition for the cultural value of play in the broader community. So this is a kind of a test bed or a place where that can kind of start to happen. There's so many instances of spontaneous play communities, and obviously the whole event is a way to kind of bond people through that process.
I'm from the US, but I live in Rotterdam in the Netherlands for the last 6 years. And I don't think we have the same kind of play community there. So yeah, I love coming here to see what's going on here. I think it's not possible to get disappointed with this group of people because there will always be something going on, and there's always this amazing inclusive energy. And you will come away with things to take back into your work, but you'll also come away with a personal sort of opening up. At least that's what I experienced the first time I was here. I actually cite CounterPlay as one of the most meaningful experiences of my life. The last time I was here, I felt like that sort of breathed life back into me, and that is something that I've told everyone who has ever asked me about what is this thing in Denmark that you went to. It matters so much to connect with people who are working with the same thing as you are. And playing with adults, it's difficult. It takes a lot of courage. But I think starting small in your city, starting a small initiative where you get together and you sort of explore playing a game in a park and sort of what that, how that disrupts the flow of society, expecting adults not to play. It's really about courage. Well, play is something that I want to work with more in my career and in my life. And I wrote my thesis also about play when I graduated 2 years ago. About play and the link to organizational change and also to innovation and design thinking. And I think that there is some important connection there. So I'm investigating that and also interested in this play as a lifestyle, which is what this whole festival is about. At the festival, well, it's great. This is my second year here. It's amazing to come and sort of encounter a group of people who are doing almost the exact same thing as you, and in your daily life you almost never meet someone who is working with play for adults. But you can immediately sort of say what you're doing and people are like, oh yeah, I know exactly what that is, and sort of instantly connect with this group of people in this safe space.
Of their first edge, which is from comfort zone to this stretch zone or learning zone. Some do call this zone the real comfort zone because you have a natural habit of exploring. And how can we make them aware of their second edge, like from this learning stretch zone to the panic zone, where again we have more stress hormones in us that keeps us occupied, so we cannot focus on the task, we cannot be productive, we cannot deliver whatever we're set out to do. And thirdly, of course, how can we invite them back in? Because sometimes it just happens, as we experience maybe in this room, in this conference, or in other settings. So first, I would like to ask you, who reframe change, like in the first round, right? When I ask you, change 5 things, right? Who removed stuff from their...
I'm here with 6 or 5 of my colleagues from VIA University College, and it's a kind of inspirational tour. We are participating in a program called Playful Learning, so we wanted to explore what play is and actually to engage in play as well here. Because I believe that you need to work with the hands in order to actually understand what's going on, because knowledge is in your body, and play is just a beautiful way to get your body activated in order to activate your mind as well. Normally it goes the other way around. So I expect to be put on insecure ground and actually expecting to meet the unexpected, but also to get a sort of common understanding on how we perceive play in our study group and how we can actually use this in order to develop the Playful Learning program.
Well, obviously, CounterPlay is a sort of play community. As you feel you feel part of it when you are here physically at the festival. Well, I've been here before, and a lot of things I can't remember. But it's a mindset. It's a mindset of bringing play into society, and it has transformed my way of thinking about teaching and education. It's hard to say. I'm not leaving here and taking 1 or 2 or 3 specific things with me and bring that into my way of teaching kids. But it's a mindset. It's a mindset that transforms me and has made a huge positive transformation in my way of being a teacher and as well as being a person. But I don't know what to frame in and say that's when we play the best. Sometimes you play the best when you least expect it. So I think the main thing is that you feel the flow. You're just riding on a wave, sort of speaking.
Like we're on a collective treasure hunt here. All of CounterPlay is of course about playing, but it's also about understanding play as much as we can. We'll never understand it fully, but we can understand bits and pieces, things, small corners here and there. We can get a better grasp of play, and we can get a much better grasp of play if we share what we learn along the way. Yes? That's it. This is maybe my best piece of advice. Have fun while you're here. Play well together and take care of each other. It's supposed to be a very friendly, generous, inclusive space. You're never forced to play. You can always step out of play. And the more of us who can remind each other of that, it's voluntary. It's supposed to be friendly. It can be challenging, yes, but you can always step out if it gets too much for you. We don't play the same way, and that's kind of the purpose. We want to explore the diversity of play, which means that sometimes I feel comfortable, other people get bored, and vice versa, because that's often where interesting things happen. So try to bring that with you. Try to find the things that you came for. I want to go to this, I want to learn about this specific thing, but try to also just go to something that seems very weird. And it's there.
I think there's a very close relationship between art and play, and I think all the artists I have ever spoken to also insist on playing as part of their practice and as part of their life. And there are several artists here who have different forms of art practice, and I also know some researchers who are into that field, and I think it's not necessarily the same, but they share a lot of traits and characteristics, and they have a lot in common in the general approach to just being in a process that you don't really know where it leads you. And I think artists also have a very playful approach, not just to their art, but to life in general. So yeah, I think those two are really closely connected. I can't say it's exactly like this, but there's a lot of connections between them. I think we've come very far. We've got a wild and widely inspiring international community. I would like to get also a more local community and a more national community as well, while keeping the international community. So I think I'm not sure that there will be an event just like this again. I think so. But I think I'm going to have to pause a little bit and reflect upon, do we need to make changes? Do we need to do something differently? But I think I can say that the spirit from CounterPlay and the idea that we need to cultivate these play communities will be a part of my work for as far into the future as I can see. So I'll keep on working with the same thing that CounterPlay does, without knowing exactly how it's going to look.
Just come in, that's fine, it's very easy. Let's just show the people who've just come in what we're doing. We hold our partner's hand and we go 1, 2, 3, back, 2, 3, together, side, step, side. Back towards your partner, hold both there, and forward, and back. Very good. But because you're all so good, you want slightly more of a challenge, I suspect. Yeah. This time, we do side, step, side, clap. A magic trick happens, and you go back to the person behind your partner instead of your partner. So if I was Judd, I'd go, ha, 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 ha.
Oh, hello.
Yeah. If you're on the other side.
I play at my best when I feel that I'm in a space where I'm encouraged to be myself and encouraged just to be, actually. I'm also a facilitator of creative processes in dance and movement, and my role, as I see it, is to be like myself, always checking in with myself, how am I feeling, but also that I'm the fool of the workshop, and that people see, okay, if Stefan can dance like this, we're also maybe allowed to dance like this. And this is dancing. Dancing is not to be like with technique, but you can dance any way you want to move at this point. Yeah, I think it's sometimes scary also to show yourself as you are inside. I'm a very enthusiastic person, but sometimes I'm in a room that I'm scared to be that person that I am inside, to show that enthusiasm, to show the playful side of me, because you sense different things. And what do I do then? Do I show myself? Do I shut myself? When a facilitator is telling me, Stefan, you can be yourself, I feel a lot of freedom to express whatever is inside of me. And sometimes it can be in a silent space, or sometimes it can be a very raw space. But when I feel I'm in an atmosphere that allows that to emerge, that's what I like the most.
Yeah.
Yes, it's already my 4th time at
Wow.
CounterPlay, and now it's only the beginning of the festival, but I already feel why I come to this festival. And it's such an amazing festival that allows everyone just to be here, to encounter one another.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, just to be you at this moment, wherever you are. Whoever you are at this point, let's play, let's meet, let's enjoy ourselves, and let's let's have fun. Let's have fun for the sake of fun.